Yo, where them Catholics at? Man, what's the matter with these bishops?
Welcome back, everybody. It's the Catholic Convert Show. And we're finally at the end of the week. Got a lot going on in the Catholic world right now. Least of all, but probably the most entertaining, that has left my own wife with a feeling of FOMO, is the National Eucharistic Congress. My wife is seeing all these videos because she follows most of those priests and nuns that have been speakers up there in Indianapolis. And last night I was at adoration, and it's Thursdays. I go at 8. I got back to the house about 9:30, 9:45. As soon as I walked in the door, my wife goes, "So the next time they have a National Eucharistic Congress, we're going to go." Well, hello to you too, but okay. I was like, "What are you talking about?" She goes, "I keep seeing people like Father Mike and Mother Olga and Katie McGrady and all these people that I follow on Instagram and social media, and they're all there." And I'm like, "I just want to go so bad. I wish we'd gone." I'm like, "Well, we can jump in the car right now and make a last minute trip to Indy. It's not like it's that far." She's, no, but next time we're definitely going." So, okay.
You should,
I would like to see the numbers. Yeah, we should. We should just have one right here. We can fit them all into that 20 by 20 pool out there. Wow. Get a couple of like Saint Therese floaties or something going on. Everybody can just yell. But no, I would like to see the numbers though, because they were boasting some pretty impressive numbers, like 50,000 Catholics all in one spot. And I did see something really cool. It was a clip from somebody with their cell phone in the Indianapolis airport, and there are some priests there, and they're walking through the airport, and they're carrying the monstrance, and you just see the random passerbys just start dropping to their knees. And you could tell the ones who weren't Catholic, right? But there happened to be a lot of Catholics there, just right there in the airport, because most of them immediately hit their knees as the monstrance passed by with the Eucharist. And there's one guy, he's kind of like looking, and he's looking over here and he's looking over there, and then he sees other people have knelt down. He's like, "Oh, I guess I should too." And he drops to his knees. It's like, okay, he's not a Catholic, but he was like, yeah, I should probably do this because Jesus is passing by. He's like, "I don't have any idea what's going on," but you could see that moment of, wait, everybody's, I guess I should. And then jumps to his knees. I was like, that was a pretty awesome clip. But no, I keep seeing all the same photos that all the people that I follow on social media too, who are there or are speaking there, have been posting up, and I'm like, yeah, kind of wish I'd have gone too. I have seen some criticisms too. And listen, I'm not going to say that they're unfair criticisms, because I get it. And I'm kind of in the same boat with it. When I go, and this is me being completely biased towards my own parish. When I go to my own parish, you're probably not going to hear any songs that were written after the year 1700. Right? You're probably not going to hear anything being sang or played that is less than 300 years old.
Sure.
Right. So I get it, because some people have complained, there's modernized praise music being played at the Eucharistic Congress there in Lucas Oil Stadium. And I'm like, yeah, I kind of get it. I can't listen to any of it, even if it's all theologically correct, like how you vet all the music acts that you bring on to all these different churches and things. I can't listen to modern praise music without being like, I'd rather listen to, cats fighting or Lucille Ball's trying to sing than any of that. And I know a lot of people aren't going to know who Lucille Ball is, but that's just because you were
Because-
born 5 years after 9/11.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, I get it. And I do understand that it's an acquired taste. The good thing that you want to keep in mind about it, though, is that there are 50,000 Catholics who traveled, some across the world, several across the country, just to be there for the encapsulation of this Eucharistic revival that's been pushed for quite a while now. Because we got to see the numbers flip, because there's always been this huge problem with at least modern problems, where there's been a significant number of Catholics that did not believe in the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. And listen, that's kind of like the point, the source, the summit of our faith is Christ's body, blood, soul, divinity being actually legitimately present in the Eucharist. And I believe at one point the numbers were that 70% did not believe. However, those numbers have inversed since the Eucharistic revival began. It's now 70% do believe. That is something to celebrate. And
Sure.
You get the most personal and intimate experience with Christ through the Eucharist. And yet some people are finding ways to nitpick about what's going on at this Eucharistic Congress. And I get it. I don't like that modern praise music any more than any of you. Oh, well, it's too Protestanty in the presentation. You know what? We've been talking forever about how we need to draw more young people into the church, whether they are cradle Catholics that have lapsed or whether they're we're hoping they become converts. Yeah, there's a lot of them out there that are like super tradition minded and just based as they should be, that get drawn in by the antiquity, the timeless antiquity of their traditions of the church, with the traditional Latin Mass, with the hundreds, if not centuries year old hymns and Gregorian and Latin chant that we're all so familiar with, if we're fortunate enough to have a parish that has those. But listen, if we got to get them in the door with some flashing lights and a fog machine to hear some speakers, then by all means, I don't care. That's what we need to be doing, right? You can't draw them in here and be like, all right, immediately you need to erase every single thing that you've ever thought or ever enjoyed, that you've ever been mildly interested in, and then immediately become a Benedictine monk or a Trappist. It's like, bro, we're bringing them in baby steps. It's that whole we're meeting them where they are thing, right? Because the point is that when we meet them where they are, we don't leave them there. We can bring them in. If we're bringing them in with an awesome light show in the middle of Lucas Oil Stadium and some fog machines, and you've got these like thousands of religious sisters and nuns all standing there, all singing beautifully these hymns that just because, they were written in the 50s. You know what? That kind of energy is bringing more people in who there's thousands of people at the National Eucharistic Congress that aren't even Catholic, but they're considering it. They're on the journey to being Catholic. And so when they get there and they start getting a little deeper into the history of the church, into the traditions of the church, into the theology of the church, that is when they'll start to foster the love and the appreciation for all those things that we love, that are the timeless elements of the church. You can't get someone who's been listening to like Amy Grant, and I know I'm saying Amy Grant, that's like 30 years ago, but that's the only one I can remember. Okay?
She's still doing it. She's still kicking it.
Yeah, but it's still from 30 years ago, and that's the only one that I can remember. And all of a sudden be like, well, you throw that away and you're going to listen to Gregorian chant. And that's all. And anything with actual music, it has to be played on a French pianoforte from the 1350s.
I like that.
Right. It sounds awesome to us now. But when we're getting brought in, it's like, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure I even know what's going on. That's the main reason that I didn't begin going to a Latin mass, is because I didn't want to walk in there and have no friggin' clue what was going on. And I'll tell you how separated I was from it. A buddy of mine in Michigan, he sent me a text when I was in the beginning stages of my conversion, and he goes, "So do you have a rosary?" And I'm like, "Yeah, a buddy of mine sent me a rosary. It's this one hanging back here."
Mm-hmm.
I've also got, another one here. There's like 5 in my car. But anyway, he goes, "Okay, do you have a missal?" And so I texted him back. I'm like, probably. He goes, "What do you mean probably?" I'm like, "I don't know what a missal is." He's like, "Oh, okay, then yeah, you need one. Here's a recommendation for you to get, or I can ship you one." I was like, "Oh, no, I'll get one." So I didn't go to a Latin mass because I had no clue what was going on. And when I went to the Reverent Novus Ordo Mass in the high form, I was like, "Oh, okay, I can understand what they're saying. They're reading some scripture. We're gonna pray here. Okay, I recognize the Hail Mary. I recognize the Our Father. I've got a generalized idea of the Eucharist, and I know what's going on. I had no idea what to say, when to stand, when to sit, when to kneel for any responses during the Mass. But I understood what was going on, and it was that Mass that locked me into the Catholic Church." Now, someone who is thinking of converting from a Protestant faith or from no faith at all, when they go to a Latin mass, that is just majoritively silent except for the chant and the the scripture, and they feel like, I've got no idea what's going on, especially if it's a solemn mass and you're not hearing any music. They're like, it's that I've got tinnitus now because I'm in this silent room and there's these guys up there holding something in his hand and saying stuff in a language I don't understand. That's basically what it looks like to people who have no idea what's going on. So when we go and meet them where they are, if we're still way over here and they're way over here, we're not meeting them. But what's the whole point of this Eucharistic revival? It's to reignite the faith. It's to reinvigorate the faithful. It's to bring more people into God's church. So, okay, you don't like modern praise music. Neither do I. And while I was there, I would probably be like, "Oh, I recognize some of this lyrical stuff," but man, the sooner it stops, the better. Because guess what happens the next day? The next day is at the Congress. There's Gregorian chant. There's Latin. You've got these beautiful like voices coming out of these nuns in French. And you're like, "Okay, I feel like I'm surrounded by a choir of angels." And that's what it feels like when you go to mass, right?
Sure.
But if you've got, Father Mike Bible in a year, man, coming out on stage and he's super excited, and you've got some cool lights and, you've got the whole, maybe some fog comes in and who cares? He's not up there giving mass. He's giving a talk.
Yeah.
He's talking to people about the story of the incarnation. He's giving a talk to people about the story of the resurrection, about the real presence of Christ in the Eucharist. But people are nitpicking. I could never go there because they had 3 modern praise songs in one day. Okay, cool, but maybe chill a little bit. It's on those same vibes. It's on those same vibes of the people that are the TLM exclusivists. And again, I'm going to say the disclaimer here. No, I know that not all of the TLM exclusivists are like this, but the ones that actually think people who don't attend a TLM exclusive mass aren't Catholic enough. It's that same kind of vibe. Well, you're not Catholic enough because you listen to music that was it uses modern instruments. Calm down. Calm down. We're bringing more people into the church. We want the Catholic Church to consist of all 8 billion people on earth. That's what we want. Right? Yeah. Well, we can't get there by acting like we're trying to alienate everybody or acting like we're better than everybody and acting like, oh, well, we're going to be the most old, boring, stuffy people. Now, again, it's not boring to us because we understand it. And we understand the tradition and the beauty of the liturgy. But if we got to bring some people in by talking to them in a language that they can understand, well, then let's do that. We're not leaving them there. We're bringing them all the way to our side, right? We're going to have them just loving the smell of incense and being able to take deep breaths of it without coughing before this thing is over with. But maybe stop nitpicking about some of the, the modern music stuff. Well, I can't believe they had a fog machine when Cardinal so-and-so was up there. Would you have preferred they walked out with a thurible? Seems to me like that would have been a waste of blessed incense for something that's not part of the liturgy. It's a talk. It's a discussion. It's a speech. If you got a fog machine in the middle of mass, okay, I'll join you in ripping out the entire electrical system for that church because that's horrible. But it's a speech. Calm down a little bit. Stop being such a, like you're almost like a Puritan. Relax. Calm down. The Mayflower's not floating again. Relax. And we're not ditching tradition. We're not ditching the sacredness of the liturgy because a priest has modern music playing for a speech that's somewhere that's not even a church. It's a football stadium. So maybe take that down a little bit.
Yeah. It's as long as what is being done is not in place of tradition. Like, mean, even at that conference, they're having mass every day. They're having adoration every day. They're doing everything that you wanted and that you expected. It's kind of like when, you had mentioned, like, I'll have Christian artists come in and perform at some of the churches that I hang out at. I don't do it instead of mass that day. The concert, if it's the concert might be after the Saturday night mass, or it might be, before one of the Sunday masses, or it's just on a totally different day of the week. It's not in lieu of, and it makes a big difference because, like a lot of the guys that I will have come in and perform, I'll see their Facebook posts and their X posts and things like that, and they'll say, because the vast majority of them aren't Catholic, and they say, hey, come and see us because I'll be leading worship at the Church of the Nazarene of the Rising Sun of Thursday evenings and stuff. And I would say, well, no, you're singing songs. Let's say what it is. You're not leading worship. You're not authorized to do that. You're not qualified to do that. You're going to be there in their worship area, whatever it is that they happen to call it, and you're going to be singing some of your songs that you perform. you're not leading worship. That's not what you're there for. But so that thing, as long as you understand that those things are in addition to, if they are part of something that's going to attract people, then that's fine. I have no qualms with that whatsoever, as long as you're not replacing what needs to be there. And I think it's valuable. I think it's a tool that can be used to draw people in. When you see, I know that at my church that I do most of my stuff through, they'll have an adoration a few times a year that is geared towards teens and early 20s and things like that. It's geared towards younger people, and they'll have, the monstrance is out there, Christ is exposed, and very, very softly and quietly in the back, there's modern worship music being played. Very quiet. You barely hear it, but it's there. And I've been there, and I've sat in the back and spent my hour there with the Lord. And I've seen, 17-year-olds, 15-year-olds getting up there and kneeling down before the Lord, and they're focused on that monstrance, and the music is in the back of their heads, and they start weeping, and I'm thinking, how can I say that there's something wrong with this experience simply because there's more modern worship music being played quietly, softly in the background? I can't find fault with it, If that's what's going to attract people to come and get to know the Lord a little bit more, and to want them, and then to want afterwards to come back on Sunday for Mass, and to see the actual Mass with the incense and with the prayers, with the traditional music, and not the modern worship music, then I can't see anything wrong with that. And I'm saying it's you're saying we've got to attract people. Now you don't attract them with that stuff and then get rid of, or say, well, what brought them in was the modern worship music. It was this cool little picnic we had and things like that. So let's forget all the stuff that we normally would do. No, you draw them in with that, which is fine. And then you introduce them to what it really means to be Catholic. And like I said, at the conference this week out in Indianapolis, they're having Mass every day. They're having adoration every day. The talks that are being given are theologically accurate talks. There's, it is Catholicism. It's Catholicism at its finest. I'm not going to fault them, because then I've seen the videos of nuns in full habit bopping and swaying back and forth and singing modern Christian songs. How can you find fault with that? There's a lot of people need to just lighten up and just chill out a little bit.
People lose their minds all the time when they find out that I take my earbuds to adoration every single time I go. And listen, people are like, why are you listening to music in the adoration chapel? One, I don't use them every single time I'm in there. They're just in my pocket just in case. And part of the reason there is because I cannot focus. I've got ADD or ADHD. I don't know. One of those when it comes to me trying to kneel and pray a rosary, and I've got random whispers around me that come from someone not understanding that it's possible to pray silently and not. I'm like, I can't focus with that. So I'm like, okay, boom. The earbuds go in my ear, and what do I have? Gregorian chant, or sometimes nothing at all. But these are what do you call it? Sound noise canceling. So I can just throw them in there, and I've got dead silence in my head. Right. But sometimes I'm like, you know what? I'm going to listen to, I've got an entire playlist on my phone that's specifically for adoration. So, I mean, it's everything from Adoro Te Devote, the Regina Caeli, Ave Maria, Crucem Sanctum, Tota Pulchra es Maria. I've got all kinds of different chant on here, and one of them's just an hour-long track of different Latin Eucharistic chant. And so I've still heard people go, well, you shouldn't be having any electronic devices in the adoration chapel. Like, calm down, relax a little bit. Like I see the same thing happen with some of the deacons at my church. They come in there and they're like, oh, as soon as that whispering starts, I completely lose my place and it will take me 5 years to say a rosary or 20 minutes to get through the Angelus. So the earbuds go in and the Latin chant goes on.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Fine.
Yeah.
I get it.
What they need to do is they need to go out. Yeah, they need to go out and talk to the people that aren't there. You know what I mean? They need to go out in the street and talk to the people that aren't there, that aren't showing up for Mass, that aren't showing up for adoration. That's the people you need to talk to, not talk to the guy who's there every Thursday night, who's there for an hour every Thursday night and praying and prostrating yourself before the Lord. That's not the guy you complain to. I mean, to me, that's ridiculous.
You're doing it wrong, sir.
Exactly, right?
But no, listen, we do have a legitimate problem with a lot of these Novus Ordo parishes that when you walk in there and you just want to fight everyone because there's a lady up there with a tambourine. It's like, nope, we're going to, I've got 2 lassos in my shed and I'm still good at roping from my days working on ranches. So guess what? I'm going to hook her up, pull her out, and we can do this the right way. But seriously, we have a problem with a lot of these Novus Ordo parishes committing liturgical abuses because the fluidity that is supposedly the feature and not the bug of the Novus Ordo Mass in many masses. I'm not all parishes either. Again, mine is amazing. And I know Dr. Dominic Padua, his parish is also amazing because they do very much the same thing. There's, nothing but altar rails. There's no Eucharistic ministers. There's no receiving in the hand, unless the guy's sick and he's like, that kind of thing. But that doesn't mean you have to absolutely shirk every piece of modernity out of a Catholic event.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a 5-day long Mass. This is a Eucharistic Congress with guest speakers. They don't have to all walk out to smells and bells.
Mm-hmm.
It's fine. And if they can, I can't even remember that cardinal's name, but he was it might have been a bishop, but I'm pretty sure it was a cardinal. He was giving a talk up there, and he got a laugh, right? That put a lot of these young people into that frame. I'm like, okay, these aren't just some stuffy old guys, because there is that idea that every Catholic priest and every bishop and every cardinal, they just walk around like Benedictine monks all day, and they don't ever do anything remotely normal. Like, really? Okay. That's why I've seen the photos of my priest when he goes on his annual leave wearing an unbuttoned button up, and he's sitting on the French Riviera with a martini in his hand. Right? Because he saves up all of his money the entire year just to go do that for a couple of days. They do fun stuff. But no, this cardinal got up there and he's telling a joke, and the joke was pretty good. It's like, this one guy looks over and he's like, my wife wants to go to Italy, but I don't want to go because there's too many Catholics there. And then another guy goes, yeah, my wife wants to go to France, but I don't want to go because there's too many Catholics there. And then both of them kind of turn with a sneering look and says, well, what do you think about any of that there, mister? And he goes, well, I think you should go to hell. There's no Catholics there. It's a joke, right? It's a great joke. It's a good joke. I'm totally stealing that from him too. But no, I can't believe He didn't speak only in Latin, and I can't believe he didn't speak only about the liturgy. Like, it's a speech, and we're trying to reignite people's zeal and fervor for the faith. So you got to talk to them in ways they can understand, and it's okay to smile. It's okay to. The worst thing I've ever seen about a lot of people going to mass, and I've seen all these different live streams in mass, and I've even seen people like this at my own parish. If you get a look at people's faces, almost everyone there looks constipated. They look like it's some kind of burden to be there. But then you see others who are smiling, who have got this light and joy in their eyes because they are within a matter of moments about to be in the real presence of Christ. And it's a joyous occasion, as it should be. Like, it's okay to be happy in Mass. I've attended many Latin masses. Most of them have been, the 7 o'clock at night masses on holy days of obligation. It's definitely not gonna mean that I actually get to go to bed at a normal time because of how long of a drive it is to get there. And I still can see people smiling. They're happy. They're joyous to be in the presence of Christ. It's a joyous feeling to be there worshiping. But there's a lot of people that sit there like, you smell that too? They just look so miserable in Mass. It's okay to be happy. It's like those videos you were talking about where these nuns in full habits, they've all been nuns since Vatican -3. They're all 748 years old. But
and they're swaying.
Guess what? They're swaying, they're singing, they're meeting people, they're greeting people, they're hugging, they're having conversations, they're playing with little kids or people who brought their little kids there. It's okay to be happy, Catholics.
Yeah. I was watching a video a couple days ago of a homily from a priest, and he was talking about attending the Mass, and he was talking about people that are miserable going to Mass. They're just not happy to be there. They come in late, they scoot out early, and they're just trying to get that obligation. And then he said, well, what's happening at the Mass? The Mass is heaven on earth. It literally is heaven on earth. So if you're not happy for an hour on Sunday in church, you're probably not going to be happy with an eternity in heaven. So you may want to rethink things. You may want to remember why you're going there and why you are there on Sundays. And it made me think a little bit. I mean, I don't have that issue. I love going to Mass. I love being in church. But it's true. If you're not happy in Mass, you may not be happy in heaven, because what is heaven? Heaven's like a nonstop, continuous Mass. It's liturgy 24/7, baby. You know what I'm saying? It's worshiping God nonstop. And if you're not happy doing it for an hour, you're probably not going to be happy.
Presence and glory, and the full presence and glory of the entirety of the Trinity, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah,
and that's eternity. But you can't put a smile on your face and be happy to experience the full presence of Christ for an hour and a half.
Some people.
You're going to be miserable for eternity if that's not what makes you happy.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, look, and I get it. I want to do I will do everything I can to preserve tradition of the church. I don't think a thing that has always been a part of the church's tradition should ever be changed or removed. I don't think it should, and I will die with that same point of view. Okay? And that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this is a National Eucharistic Congress, and we're finally starting to see tons and tons and tons of people excited about standing and kneeling in the presence of Christ. Let them be happy and stop being a Karen sourpuss. You know, it's like that weird HOA neighbor that gets mad. Your kids are being too loud outside while they're playing. Laughter is forbidden. Relax. Go back to your cats.
Yeah.
But no, I'm 100% on board with my wife's idea, though. I keep seeing all these amazing videos and seeing clips of all these different speeches. And I love Mother Olga. I love Mother Olga. She's so awesome. I wish I had a chance to have been there to see her talk, but hopefully next time she's still with us and I'll get to do that. You know, it's just like I can't wait till this October. It's going to be awesome. Yeah. I get to go in there and see Father Larry Richards. You know, he was one of the priests on YouTube. He had done a talk. I think it was for a channel called the Rome Boys, which is pretty awesome. Yeah, I love the Rome Boys. They're cool. But he was, you know, his talk, be a saint or go to hell. And I'm like, well, whoa. He's like, because those are your two options. There's nobody in heaven except for, you know, Christ, the Holy Spirit, God. That's not a saint or an angel, but they're saints.
Yeah.
They're just created saints. But listen, you don't have any other options. You can be a saint, or quite frankly, sir, you can go to hell. And that's exactly how Father Richards will put it. And I love the stories he tells about how he gives autographs, you know, for his books, because he's got like 4 or 5 books. And you're like, oh, Father Richards, can you autograph my book? He's like, okay, what's your name? He goes, Joe. He goes, okay, dear Joe, thanks for coming to see me. Father Richards. P.S. Be a saint, ... and then big capital letters, or go to hell. And then he underlines it and hands him the book.
Yep. I've got his book, Be a Man, right on my bookshelf 3 feet away from me. It's signed, something to that nature. But and that's a good one. If you haven't read that one, Be a Man, it's a wake up call.
I love that one.
It's a wake up.
I've got a physical copy, and I've got the Kindle copy, because that's what I do with books. Especially if it's someone that I really like, I have to buy the book 3 times. I buy the physical copy, I buy the Kindle copy, and then I buy it on Audible if it's available. So I bought the book 3 times.
Cool.
And I do that with all of my books, especially if like the authors are friends. I'm like, okay, full support. You got this. But no, I mean, he told I believe he told a bishop to go to hell in the confession booth at St. Mary Major's in Rome.
Yeah.
Because he was there to confess. He was there to give his confession, and the guy started, the confessor, I don't know if it was another priest or if it was a bishop, but he started yelling at Father Richards. And then as a penance, he gave him a full rosary.
Wow.
And so Father Richards said, you know what? Go to hell. He turned around and walked out. And of course he did his penance, but he's like, look, and I love the way he explained it. He goes, I am supposed to be a lion in the pulpit, but I'm supposed to be a lamb in the confessional.
Yeah.
Persona in Christi. Can you imagine Christ yelling at you as you begged him for mercy? No.
Wouldn't happen.
He goes, so don't do that. He goes, and it wasn't until a few months later that I discovered I wasn't the first person to tell him to go to hell, nor have I been the only one since.
Oh, really?
Like, that's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
Like, priests aren't these stuffy guys that never do anything. I mean, obviously, there's plenty of priests on social media you can follow that prove that to be the case. But it's kind of that preconceived notion that all these priests just walk around praying, carrying their rosary all day, which would be awesome. But, they like going hiking and lifting weights and watching football and going to the movies and stuff like that too. They're also humans. And so when you see these people there at these Eucharistic Congress like this, and I'm pretty sure we're going to have the same thing coming up when I attend in October for the 12th Marian Eucharistic Congress. There's probably going to be something there that's not said in Latin, and it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty sure it'll be fine.
It'll be okay. Or maybe you'll be here this weekend in New Jersey for Catholic Palooza with our friend
you know
Enoch.
What? Yeah. I really wanted to go to that too, but I got way too short a notice. I'm serious. I got way too short a notice on that. I didn't know Catholic Palooza was a thing until Enoch came on the show. Well, it was like 2 days before Enoch came on the show. That's when I discovered it was a thing. I was like, is that real? Because I can't tell if people are trolling or not. But
it's a thing, and it's great.
Yeah. And I can't wait to go to stuff, to more things like that. But the Eucharistic should be something to be smiling and happy and joyously celebrating. And if you've got a problem with people doing that, all because, well, the hymn is not 500 years old and they're speaking English, maybe you ought to lighten up. Maybe you should put a little bit more joy for that in your life.
Lighten up,
Just
Francis.
a thought.
Exactly.
Nobody calls me Francis.
Call me Francis, I kill you.
Lighten up, Francis. I love that movie.
Oh boy.
Tell you what we do need, though.
What do we need?
We need more cowbell.
We do need more cowbell. You always need more cowbell.
I might go buy a cowbell just to ring it on the show.
Just bring it. You gotta explore the space. You know what I'm saying? With that cowbell.
Oh yeah. But no, let me ask you this: do you know how often these Eucharistic Congresses take place? I don't think it's yearly.
No, the problem is that it's not like there's a set plan for it. It's whenever. And like I was mentioning, because remember I brought in some things from Eucharistic Congresses in the past.
Yeah, I remember all those medals. That's why I figured I would ask you.
And so there are international ones, there are national ones, and there are regional ones, and there are diocesan ones. And they are just whenever those in charge feel the need for it and want to put it together. So you can actually, that's what I'm saying. Like if you really desperately wanted one, and you want it to be somewhat large, but not, it doesn't have to be on a national scale or international scale. You can talk to your bishop and say, we really, diocesan wide, we need to have the Eucharistic Congress. And you can have one set up that way. Or, if he sees fit, he can talk to some other bishops and do like a regional one. But there's no set dates for it or anything like that. It's just when it is felt that it is.
I mean, that makes sense. If they go off when they feel like it's needed. For some reason,
it's like the last.
No, you froze up for a second. I was just trying to save face by continuing to talk. But no, for some reason,
I had a little freeze up there. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just trying to save face, make it seem like I'd actually heard you when I heard part of what you had said. But no. For some reason, I had it kind of in my head that this was possibly kind of set up like the Olympics. That's every 4 years, but obviously not every 4 years, or I'm pretty sure I would have heard about it prior to me becoming Catholic within 4 years. But it does make sense. Okay, you know what? The American bishops decided 2024.
Oh, yeah.
That's the year that we're going to have a National Eucharistic Congress. And we're going to start it all off with a National Eucharistic processions starting off at different points in the country. And they're all going to come, boom, to their end point. And then we're going to end this entire thing with the National Eucharistic Congress. Going to be awesome. And it was a huge hit, 50,000 people in Lucas Oil Stadium. I don't even think the Colts draw that many people these days. So good to know that Jesus can. But yeah, I was curious. I didn't really know how that whole thing came about on a like schedule as to when it, when they took place. But it makes sense now. They probably had a lot of bishops here, diocesan bishops, talk to the UCCB and say, hey, we want to do one. And they went, okay, great idea, and did it that way. So yeah, makes sense.
Exactly.
Obviously there'll be another one, but it probably will not be next year.
Very unlikely.
Although if they said we need another one immediately, that would be cool too. I'd be so down for that just to go.
It would be very cool. Yeah.
I mean, you're not that far from Indianapolis either. You're closer than I am.
I'm not far from anything. Most people don't realize this, but all roads lead to New Jersey. It's just
you mispronounced Damascus, but okay.
Okay. I'm living in the hub of civilization. I'm living in the cultural hub of the world.
Yeah, you can keep
it all
telling
happens
yourself
here.
That.
You saw me at the Bluegrass Festival last weekend. I mean, come on, what's more culturally appropriate than that? It's beautiful, beautiful stuff.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what, though. I'm curious as to what you took a picture of this morning.
Yeah.
So what'd you got?
What do I got? Well, this is actually kind of cool. And it was funny because when I was digging this up, digging it up, but when I was pulling these out, I ran into a couple other things that I had been looking for. So the next couple of days are going to be pretty fun. Mondays is going to blow you away. But for today, what I brought with me is my set of papal postcards from 1903. Look at these bad boys. I have some of them out of their little wrappers. So here you have Pope Gregory V.
Oh, that's cool.
Pope Gregory VI. Some of them are gorgeous. These are pieces of art, honestly. And they're actual real live postcards.
They really do resemble. They really do resemble some of the illuminated texts, which I think that's cool, man.
That was the look they were going for. Gregory VII, right there. That dude, good-looking fella, and Gregory VIII. Now, obviously, they don't have all 266 because this is from 1903. So there have been a few popes in the last 121 years, but I do have about 150 or so of them, and all of these are beautiful, all beautiful pieces of art. They're all.
What about the bad popes?
Who is this? Yeah, they're in here too. They don't skip any of them.
They didn't even
they're
skip
all in
the
there.
Bad popes.
And but these are pretty cool. You imagine
what was it?
Sending Pope cards 121 years ago.
Was it Benedict X? I believe. Wasn't he kind of gnarly?
Well, there's been a half dozen or so.
There's been about 12 to 20 that were like, we could have done without all that, but
cringe.
Thanks for showing up, right? Maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's
I know there was a Stephen in there that was a little unsavory.
It's been a while wise. That's all I can say.
Yeah.
But wait till you see what we're bringing on board on Monday. It's going to blow you away. Okay. It really is.
Oh,
yeah, go ahead.
Speaking of all of this, so my wife and I, we're just kind of surfing through some eBay stuff, and there's a relic on there. It's for sale. It's like $1,099. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
You and you're aware of this, obviously, because all of yours were the relics that you do possess were acquired legitimately. And I was just curious about the, I think it's the 1917 canon law stated, about the absolute no coming to with the selling of relics, right? And the loophole stuff is obviously, well, they're not selling the relic, they're selling the container and covering the mailing fees and all this other stuff. But then it got me curious about the purchase of relics, and I was kind of surprised with the way they worded it, but it does make sense. The purchase of relics is completely allowed on the following conditions.
Yep.
You are ransoming it from a person who is trying to sell them so that you can keep them from ever being resold, and you're going to give it to a church or a parish so it's put into a place of veneration. Or you are legitimately buying a thing and you didn't know it contained a relic. And the others, as far as becoming an owner of relics, primarily first-class relics, which are practically impossible to become private owners of without explicit exceptions like yours. I mean, yours were gifted to you by a priest, so that's when he wasn't making a profit of it. No one's committing simony here. But no, I was very curious about that. I'm like, I have no idea what who the relic is. My wife's got the screenshot of it. I got to do some research to figure out what it was. And this is very clearly a third class relic. It's definitely not first class. Very clearly, it's a little swatch of cloth. Whether very old, I can say that just from the condition. The reliquary itself was probably 200 years old, just because of how faded it looked. Unless it was just kept in direct sunlight for 60 years. There's that option too. But no, I was very curious about the actual church's position and rulings on these things, because whenever I see someone on eBay or anywhere online that's claiming to sell a relic, my first instinct is, well, that's fake. And my second instinct is, oh, this is sacrilege. And then my third instinct is, I would like to steal that so they can't sell it.
But then you would
like
be guilty of a sin.
You know what I mean? No. Rescuing it. Rescuing the relic.
Yeah.
And then immediately give it to a parish. That gives me a great idea for a new book series, by the way.
Great. But it's true that there are the what you call the loopholes, and so that's why, like, I'm not happy about relics being sold on eBay and places like that. But it is true that there is that, like, if you're buying it from eBay because you don't know where else that relic is going to wind up. I mean, there are like groups of Wiccans and stuff that will buy relics and things so that they can use them for satanic rituals and things like that. Kind of like people that will go into a Catholic church and they'll receive communion in a hand and do a little side hand and put it in their pocket, whatever, and take it for some kind of weird, bizarre ritual. And they'll film it and they'll YouTube it and say, hey, look what we did with the host that we stole from St. Catherine's or whatever like that. So I do worry about those kind of things. And of course, one of the big reasons for not selling relics is because then it becomes a business, and there are, I'm sure eBay is loaded with fake relics. And so you're taking advantage of people who think that they're getting a relic from Saint whoever or from the Holy Family or whatever. And of course, it's a little nonsense. I have a friend who has 3 relics, and he was so proud to show them to me. And I had to break it to him that he had fake ones, because there are telltale signs. And I'm not saying that I'm an expert on them by any means, but there are different ways that they are presented, and that the way they are sealed, and the documentation that comes with them, and who the documentation is from, and who signed the documentation. It's a whole big long thing. But yeah, I certainly have no issue with individuals having relics if I know that people know that the relics that I have, they'll be with me forever. I use them as teaching tools with my CCD classes, with my Bible studies and things like that. I've lent them to churches and things like that. And then when I pass on, I'll donate them to various churches, so they will continue to be in the right hands. So yeah, there are the loopholes with buying and selling of relics, but I wouldn't recommend getting into the business.
Well, there's no loopholes with selling them, but there are loopholes
with buying.
Selling
exactly,
them is selling them is completely forbidden, as it should be.
Yeah, exactly.
But
it should definitely should be.
Them as absolutely, but buying them as a means of rescuing them from something nefarious is obviously permitted.
Yeah.
I will say that whenever I see someone trying to sell a relic, I do wonder if it's from one of the numerous, if it's the relic from one of the numerous thefts of relics that we've seen grace the news over the past several decades.
Sure.
When I say the news, I mean the very niche Catholic news, because for some reason stuff like that wouldn't make mainstream news, because it's not I don't know, it's not politically charged. But yeah, that's the first instinct that comes through my head is, okay, one, it's probably fake. Two, it's sacrilege. And three, I should probably get it so I can give it to my parish. Get it out of those marketers' hands. The only problem with it, though, I will say, is that because people buy them to rescue them, to give them to the church, that still creates the dependency that's required for the market to exist at all. Because if people said, well, I'm just never going to buy them, then the sellers would eventually disappear. But then when those sellers disappear, what do they do with them? They abuse them. They throw them away. They just leave them in the garbage. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You can buy them to rescue them, to give them to a church, or you ignore it. But if you ignore it, it ends up in a trash can somewhere, and it's an abuse of a relic.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say as far as buying, it just simply comes down to what your intention is. What are you trying to rescue it?
Oh, yeah.
Are you trying to, and that kind of thing. But again, I have no issue with people.
You plan on reselling it for profit?
That's
that kind of thing. Yeah, huge problem. Selling them at all is a problem, period. But definitely rescuing and ransoming them. And, I don't know if it's actually a sin to steal a relic from someone selling them to give it to the church.
I'm not going to think about that one.
Right? It's like, is it really? Because it's being rescued and given to a church. Is that technically stealing? Don't know. That's maybe some of these legalese theological lawyers, canon lawyers out there can explain that to me.
Give us a call.
For all maybe one of you that watch and listen to this show. But that's going to do it for this show. We've completely ran out of time and things to talk about and interest in carrying on it all. So we won't be back till Monday, when Ed has promised to blow our socks off with whatever it is he's brought a cool piece of church history next week. So we'll find out what that is. But until then, thanks for watching, listening, subscribing, and sharing with all your anti-Catholic friends.
God bless everybody.